This is Michael Clara coming to you from Salt Lake City, Utah. Today is August 27th, 2024, and this is update number 1 to a video I created about a week ago, and that was titled Spencer Cox Signature List Cover-Up. And basically that video was about a records request that I did because I was informed about an investigation that the Attorney General's office was conducting into the signature list of Governor Cox. They denied the records request. I appealed it. It was denied. And then when I tried to appeal it to the State Records Committee, it got stopped. It never even went to the State Records Committee. So that's still, I haven't filed an appeal in district court yet because of the cost. And so I'm raising, I set up a Give, Send, Go fund yesterday, or donation, or I'm sorry, a campaign for $2,000. And if you're interested in this topic and in me pursuing it in terms of the going to court to appeal this investigation, what I'd be appealing is the fact that they're denying me records about the investigation and then didn't even let it go to the State Records Committee. So I can't appeal it in 3rd District Court. And so if I can raise the money for that, it'll cost about $1,000 to do that. If I can raise the money for that, then I'll move forward on that appeal. I just have, I think, another week that I have, because you have to do it 30 days from the time the denial happened. So if I can raise that money, if you're interested in this topic, please donate so that I could have the filing fee, the money to file this complaint in court. Now, I have filed one, and I paid for it out of my own pocket already, and that was in reference to the Don Ipson signature list, and I've created a video on that, and it's titled Michael Clara versus Washington County, Part 1. And you can go back and watch that to see what the Don Ipson list is about. And so I wanted to point something out here, just quickly review or just mention how I got involved. Yes, somebody sent this to me this morning. In Southern Utah Politics, there's a Facebook page, and somebody there posted my my fundraising campaign, and then Sylvia asked, what legal basis and authority is Michael working for, and what are his qualifications to make this research? Is he an attorney? And you know, she's asking who I'm working for, and then the person that posted this said, well, reach out to him. He's been personally involved in all this. So the thing is, she should just reach out to me because she knows me. We know each other, and you know, so I get a lot of this, that I'm getting criticized and getting pushback for looking into this. And basically, you know, under records requests, any citizen can do a records request. And in this case, you know, I mentioned I got involved because I was at the state convention at the end of April of this year, and a couple of the delegates from Southern Utah asked me to help them with a grammar request because they were trying to get the Ipson, Senator Ipson's signature list, signature packet. He was the only one in Washington County that had submitted signatures, and they had submitted, these delegates had submitted a records request for it, and it was denied. And I looked up the law and I said, well, it can't be denied because the law says that you should be able to get a list. This is under the grammar law, and it's very specific to the very documents that and they showed me that they were denied their record request. So I submitted one. And I'm just was there to help them. I wasn't really involved in any of this like I am today. So on May 3rd, I submitted a records request to Washington County for the Ipson signature list. May 17, the clerk sends me a letter saying, yeah, you can come view it. Some of it is private and restricted, but in the interest of the public, that they're going to let me view it. So when I send them an email because I live in Salt Lake City, and I said, yeah, I can be there next week, you know, when's a good time, you know, to meet, because that's what they said to do, to call and set up a time. I get a letter instead on May 23rd from the Washington County attorney telling me, nope, that they're withdrawing their invitation for me to view the record, and that because there's a criminal investigation going on. So that ended up getting the attention of people from the Lyman campaign, and they reached out to me. And what was going on there, and this is from a hearing that we ended up having July 18th, because as I appealed this, and again, this is the Ipson signature list, I appealed it. And I ended up at the Records Committee on July 18th. Then the Lyman campaign ended up joining me, and under GRAMA, they joined me what's called intervenor, as interveners. And basically, here's a thing here that from that hearing that Natalie Clausen pointed out to the Records Committee, saying that her concern is what they wanted to do is let me go jump ahead here. So the Governor Cox had submitted his signature list, or packets they call them, back in February, and he was required, as you see here, to get 28,000 signatures. And then of all the ones that he turned in, when they got to 28,006, they stopped counting. And so, but in that process, 4,877 of his were rejected, and then he only had 592 to spare. So what happened down south is I was trying to get the list for Don Ipson, because the people in a state school board race wanted to compare that to the candidate down there for the state school board race, and that's a longer, more detail that I need to give now as to why that was going on. But that's how I got involved. And what Natalie Clausen, look at this number here of 619 rejected signatures from Ipson. What happened was, at this hearing, the county attorney discloses that they're investigating 30 to 60 forgeries in Washington County. And basically, so that's kind of the context of it. What happened was Natalie Clausen explained to the Records Committee that their campaign wanted to compare that Ipson list because of the rejected signatures in Washington County. They wanted to ensure that those same signatures were rejected off of the Governor Cox's list, because Governor Cox's list was verified signatures were happening up in Davis County, which is north of Salt Lake, and then way south of Salt Lake, the most southern county in the state of Utah, one of them, is where the Ipson list was looked at. So all the very simple thing that the Lyman campaign just wanted to compare the two. Ask the Cox or Lieutenant Governor who's over the elections if they did that, and they didn't answer the letter that Natalie Clausen had sent them, or answer the questions. So she's saying, fine, we can do our own verification. We want to compare the signature list of Governor Cox, which they have at least a list of people, and I think it's missing like 40% of the names because they're private, which is another issue. And they just wanted to compare it to the Don Ipson's list, which is being withheld right now. And the Records Committee, and it's being withheld. Let's listen in to what Attorney Clark said at the hearing as to why he's they're withholding the Ipson signature list.
So we're here today, and we're looking at the actual evidence of why we're asking that this information be temporarily withheld so that we can pursue an investigation. And just practically speaking, this is my concern as the chief law enforcement officer in our county. I think it's very important that when someone qualifies for the ballot by whatever method, that method is open, is transparent, and is valid. And so if signature packets come in and our county clerk raises a red flag and says, hey, there may be enough here, we should look at this, we're going to fully investigate that. And And so we want to do that. To do that investigation, and this is in the affidavits that we provided, that's going to involve going through, finding the things that gave rise to those red flags, which I don't want to get into before the investigation is concluded, right? But finding those things and then going out and talking to, you're looking at the packet, you're having red flags, talking to people whose names are on those lines and talking to the people who are gathering the signatures. If we release this information and Mr. Clara or the Lyman campaign goes through and does that comparison so that they can pull out potential discrepancies and they can be reaching out to those individuals and talking to them before they sat in a law enforcement interview, then we can't be, it complicates it, right? We're not sure that the person that we're talking to is then giving us the information that they have or the information that they got as they were approached by volunteers or campaigns or other people. I'm not saying the information shouldn't go out there. Obviously, the Lyman campaign under 3055, which was one of the slides that was shown earlier, can walk in and they can view for the Cox signature packets, they can view the signatures for the non-protected voters, and they can view the signature in the voter registration database. They can do that verification. That's already allowed under the law. What we're asking for is give us some time to do an investigation before we do that on the Don Ipson signature packets, which there's not a time interest in doing those quickly anyway, because they weren't key to him winning re-election.
That's the problem. Please.
I see that I'm out of time. I apologize that I went over.
Thank you.
So you see, his reason is that let us do our investigation. And that was the message that he gave to the Records Committee. And the Records Committee accepted that and agreed that when you get done with your investigation, you're going to release that, which is what they put in their order and what the expectation was of everyone. What ends up happening is on August 6th, the Washington County commissioners have a meeting and people showed up to their meeting and to talk about this. There's an open forum that they have a half hour before the meeting. And this is what they learned. And let's listen in to a couple days later, this video comes out by Commissioner Iverson. And let's listen into what he said.
In our last meeting, we did have a room full. That's not common. And some of those concerns that people were bringing to us were quite a ways outside the scope of what we as the legislative body of the county would be acting on during that meeting or any other meeting.
Some of those concerns had to do with transparency in elections.
They will not grant grandma records. They will not allow us to see the things that we need to see. And all we're asking for is transparency and to know that our elections are fair and free and honest, and they're not hiding anything.
A recent lawsuit filed by Phil Lyman, who was chosen by Republican convention delegates, states concerns about the process used by current Governor Spencer Cox.
There's actually two ways to get on the ballot. One is through the convention delegate process, and then the other is through gathering signatures. And so State Senator Don Ipson had turned in a packet to get on the Republican primary using signatures, and those signatures need to be verified against our signature database. It was discovered that there were signatures that did not match, and there's an open investigation. In fact, that investigation was finished yesterday as far as our attorney's office.
So you heard it, you heard it for yourself. So what he just said was that the investigation's done. So if the reason for withholding the record was because, according to the county attorney, we need to get done with our investigation, then we'll release the record. Boom, it's done. So good. So one of the residents down south submitted a records request to the Washington County and said, okay, since the investigation's done, and that was the only reason it was being withheld, thank you for wrapping up the investigation. Now we can get a copy of the Ipson signature list. The response was the records request was denied. And they tell them that the Ipson packets are subject of an ongoing criminal investigation. Washington County and the Attorney General's office are jointly working on the investigation, which is still open and ongoing. Now understand, this whole Attorney General investigating the Ipson list never came up at the hearing on July 18th. In fact, the opposite. We were told that because all of Don Ipson's geographic area is in Washington County, or half of the county, but it's all in Washington County, that this was an issue for the Washington County district attorney. And Washington County's chief, and going back to this denial letter, Washington County's chief criminal investigator will turn over his report to the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General's office is the lead agency, and Washington County is in a supporting role. Nothing can be turned over until the multi-agency investigation is complete, including released by the Attorney General's office. So the investigation is still ongoing and now under the purview of multi-agencies. Wow. So again, go back to what we just heard in that video by Victor Iverson. He said the investigation was done. And now when the goal, so anyways, this goalpost keeps moving about the standard of what's going to release this record. When we were at the Records Committee on July 18th, everybody had agreed, okay, when the investigation's done, the record will be released. Now there's a new standard. When the Ipson packets are available, which may not be until prosecution and a conviction, is what the denial letter said. So the person down south, she filed an appeal to the commissioners. So let's see what they say. They have 10 business days to reply. And so because of this new development, I wasn't going to, but I ended up filing an appeal in district court. Now, I hope this isn't too confusing, but this appeal that I filed was for the July 19th determination by the Records Committee. So I was planning after that, July 18th, when they denied our appeal and sided with Washington County, that they could keep the record, the Don Ipson list, until their investigation was done. I had planned to appeal, but then when I found out that the investigation was completed based on what the commissioner said, I thought, well, I don't have to appeal it now in court because they're going to release the record. But then, as I just showed you, they just made up a new standard for why they're going to withhold it. So one of the things I just want to point out here in closing is that when I did this other video called Michael Clare versus Washington County Part 2, and it's just going over what happened in that hearing from the State Records Committee on July 18th about the Ipson list. And so one of the things I wanted to point out is that in that hearing, and I've gotten some feedback on this, that people understand this issue better. Natalie Clausen, when she did her presentation, she points out to the committee that when you go and you want your records to be private, you're asked, it says you may request, and this is in the law in 20A-2-104, and then which is a voter registration, and then 20A-2-108 is about driver's license, and the language is the same. It says you may request that all information on your voter registration records be withheld from all persons other than government entities, political parties, candidates for public office, and their contractors, employees, and volunteers by indicating here. So if you check yes, I want my information to be private, they're just saying, but the candidates are going to be able to see it. In this case, the battle is about why the lieutenant governor and Governor Cox's candidates were able to view everything on the voter registrations that allowed then their contractors gathering ink to go out and find people to sign the petition, but it's withheld from the candidate Lyman and Clausen, and that's what this fight is about. And I'm like, I'm not part of the Lyman campaign. I'm not hired by anybody, so that's why I started off just helping people on this, but I am committed to it, and that's why I put my own money down, understanding that that's my own money. When I did that first appeal, it was $300 to file. It's another or $375 to file, and that's the appeal on the Ipson list that I've already done, and then it was $300 for a bond, and then like $60 to get everything served, and then I'll still have to spend money each time I serve like an amendment or other things that I need to send out to the two agencies. So again, the appeal for the Ipson signature list has been filed, and then if I raise enough money, I will file an appeal for the investigation of for the Attorney General investigation into Governor Cox's list. And then this is just an article that I cite in one of my last videos about how the Attorney General's office is just dishonest. And now they're claiming that there's no investigation in the Cox list, and we have eyewitnesses that say there is, because you'll have to watch that video, but investigators from the Attorney General's office talked to them and told them there was. We even have a case number for it, but they're trying to bury that. So that's the one that I want to go and appeal and try to get more detail on that investigation. But again, the cost is prohibited, at least for me, and I believe that these people count on that they know that people are going to be hard pressed to lay down $700 to file an appeal, so they can just lie and they get away with it because people walk away because they can't afford, to fight this. And so that's why I'm asking for, started this campaign. So if you're so inclined, go to Give, Send, Go, and I'll put a link on that in the comments of this video. Thank you.